Cadillac's hit music station, 107.9 CDY. It is time for Cadillac Unscripted, and it's a half hour of local chat here. We like to talk about the good things that are going on in the community, and by golly, we've got fireworks this weekend. Isn't that awesome? Derek Anderson is here. He is on the Cadillac Freedom Festival committee. Good morning, Derek.
Good morning.
Well, so there's not much to speak of this year for the Freedom Festival, but there is fireworks.
There is fireworks, yes.
So let's rewind a little bit and go back and tell me what it's like to sit on the board of a committee that can't really do anything.
Yeah. So, talk about getting your hands tied.
Right.
Let's, we can back up to last year, and we pushed forward last year with the festival as far as we could go. Nobody knew what this COVID thing was going to be, and we had decided that we're going to try to make this thing happen. And then at the last minute, of course, the health department said,
too risky.
Yeah. So we were handicapped last year, and we work with a great fireworks company. We have to put a deposit in. $2,500 was the deposit last year that we lost. Because
that's a chunk of change.
Yeah, it's a huge
for
portion of our budget for fireworks.
Right.
So fast forward to this year, we generally start meeting January, early February to decide what we're going to do. And when we met then, we were still under restrictions, and it did not look good for 4th of July. So preparation, organization, there's a lot that goes into bringing people to the festival. And at that time, we just said, look, we can't organize if we don't know what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. So
too many unknowns.
Yep. So we decided to cancel the festival early this year based on what happened last year.
And that frustrated a lot of people. Because people don't understand that there is months and months and months of planning in order to put on an event like this that's going to attract a lot of people.
Yes, months of planning.
Months. And in February, there's no way that we could have looked forward to July 4th and know that all the restrictions would be off.
No.
And we wouldn't have even thought that would be possible 5 months ago, 4 months ago. Right.
Nope, things were not looking very good at the time. So.
Right. So there will be fireworks, and that's what really the gist of what we wanted to get out there.
Yes, and this has been a process too, because originally we had canceled the fireworks too. This wasn't going to happen. Fortunately, our fireworks company, American Fireworks, contacted us and said, don't worry, hang in there. If things improve, we're behind you. We'll make this happen. So 1st of May or so, when we got word that restrictions might be lifted, we got a hold of the fireworks company and said, okay, we don't know for sure, but can we plan? So we started planning, and fortunately, they had not booked the date, and were able to put on the fireworks. So we are happy with that.
So you lost the $2,500 deposit last year. Takes a good chunk of change to put on a decent fireworks show, doesn't it?
Yep, we do. I believe the last 5 years, maybe 6 years, we've been able to raise about $10,000 to put on the fireworks.
How does that money get raised? Where does it come from?
A lot of hard work by a small group of people.
Isn't that true with any with any event, right?
Yeah. So we got 5 really solid core committee that work hard at this from January to the the weeks just preceding the fireworks. And we got some great sponsors in the community, people that step up, a lot of individual small donations. It just, everything goes into it, and it all adds up.
And I think it's true that money just hasn't flowed as freely the last 12 months or 15 months as it would have if we wouldn't have had the pandemic. So it's even more generous if you think about it.
We were really fortunate last year. People were excited through the beginning of the pandemic that we were going to have fireworks. So we raised $10,000 last year for the fireworks show for last 4th of July. Unfortunately, we weren't able to use it, but we were able to save all that money and use it for this year's fireworks, because we did not do any fundraising this year. And the Freedom Festival itself, with the events that we put on, vendor fees, all that money goes into the fireworks. So the Freedom Festival is actually the largest supporter of the fireworks.
So we're sitting here and we're looking at, I'm sure you're probably already thinking about what 2022 might look like. Obviously, it looks very promising that we can get back to a full schedule of events. When you see 2022 in the future, what are you thinking the Freedom Festival is going to look like next year?
Wow, that's
it's a long way off, but
it is a tough question. We've had 2 years of not having the festival. I see a lot of work putting vendors back together. We were fortunate in that people loved our location. The vendors loved to come here, but a lot of these guys travel throughout the summer, and that's how they make their living. So, if they've committed to something else for the future, it might be a little harder to bring vendors in. Organizing events, one of our first year events, the Red, White, and Brew, happened 2019. We had hoped that would be a continuing event, a beer and wine tasting event that went over really well. That takes a ton of organization. So I don't know. We need people to step up and help us make this thing happen.
And I was actually going to bring that up because I know people who are quick to criticize, who don't understand everything that goes into putting an event, could benefit by becoming part of a board or becoming or suggesting some ideas. How do people become involved with an event like the Freedom Festival?
Very good question. We have a great website. Bit Social Media is a great sponsor of that. So going to the website is sending us emails. There's a lot of contact information on there. Myself and some of the other board members, you could contact us individually. Social media, we got a great Facebook page. Reach out on there. If you want to help, we will take it. And we're always looking for great new ideas to make stuff happen. It's just such a cool community, and it's a great location.
How many do you have on the board right now?
There is 4 board members.
4 board members. 4. To put on an event that, if the weather does what it's supposed to do, thousands of people will show up for, right?
Yeah.
So the need is there for new ideas.
The need is there, and it's not just that, you don't have to be a board member. There's other volunteers that we have that contribute in any way. We love ideas. We love people to step up and say, I'd like to be able to do this. And that's the other thing, is we do get a lot of great ideas from people, but
You need people to implement those
yes,
ideas. Right.
We can't take those great ideas and run with them because we just don't have the personnel to do it.
Right. How did you get involved with the Freedom Fest?
2010, my wife and I owned a business downtown, and we wanted to become involved in the community, and there was lots of cool things happening. The Visitors Bureau was just getting going again. There was several new businesses downtown, and all of us seemed to get together and want to make stuff happen, bring people into the city. And it was just a lot of fun.
And it seems to be, I mean, for several years, there really wasn't any specific event in downtown Cadillac. I think everybody just kind of stood back and let Lake City have the attention for the greatest Fourth, but that's not happening in Lake City this year. So I think it was kind of bold for a neighboring community to, although much larger than Lake City, to step up and say, let's do something. So, and it's grown.
Yes, it has. We have never tried to compete with the greatest Fourth. They got a great thing going on.
They sure
over
do.
There.
They sure do.
We just wanted people of Cadillac not to have to go to Lake City. And if we could attract them and show them that there's, fun things to do here in town, let's keep them here.
So let's go back to circle back to the beginning again. Anything different about this year's fireworks display, or same spot? Go hit your. I know a lot of people have their spots they go to that they kind of stake out early. Pretty much the same thing this year as previous years.
Yeah. In the past, we have had a band playing prior to the fireworks. Of course, we weren't able to pull that off this year, so it's going to be a pretty quiet pre-fireworks celebration down there. We invite everybody down to the lake shore. Chestnut will be blocked off because the fireworks are set off over by the junior high school, right on the street there. But there's plenty of great seating around the lake.
Well, we're looking forward to it, and we're looking forward to see what shape the Cadillac Freedom Festival takes in future years when you can actually have one.
It'll be fun to get back to it, yes.
And remember the name Derek Anderson. Remember Cadillac Cadillac Freedom Festival Facebook page, web page. If you have ideas and you've got the manpower and the woman power to back it up, your ideas are welcome, correct?
Absolutely. CadillacFreedomFestival.com.
All right, Derek Anderson. And we need to mention that the Derek's got a day job that keeps him very busy. So you this stuff that you're doing is in addition to your regular job.
Absolutely. There is two of us. Dale Huizinga is my right-hand guy. He came on board 3 or 4 years ago, and he has just run with it. He's a treasurer, secretary right now. He has just been phenomenal help. The two of us usually get together one night a week throughout the winter and talk about things that we'd like to see happen. And then, we bring the other people in beginning of the year and start organizing it. But it's a year-round thing. We put hundreds of hours into this thing.
So January, February 2022, we're expecting to have a real idea of what the Freedom Festival will look like.
I hope so.
All right. Well, again, fireworks, dusk, Sunday night, usual place, Cadillac. No Freedom Festival this year, but at least having fireworks is a great thing considering where we were a year ago.
Yeah, and it's great because we typically have the fireworks on Sunday night to culminate the festival. A lot of people aren't real excited about that every year, but it is one thing that we do, and it's great that this year the 4th is on Sunday and we're having fireworks.
Beautiful. And next year the 4th is on Monday, so people can look forward to a long holiday weekend.
Yes, sir.
Derek Anderson, thank you very much for coming in. We appreciate it. Cadillac Unscripted is sponsored by Independent Bank on 107.9 CDY. We're back on Cadillac Unscripted, 1079 CDY, sponsored by Independent Bank, and kind of doing a two-parter this week, which is, it turns out to be quite appropriate, Katie.
It sure does.
Joining me for this segment. We just spent 15 minutes with Derek Anderson talking about where fireworks are. Now we can talk about where fireworks should not be.
I know, and we have someone who knows a lot about this. Deborah Ann Brabazon, is with us. Give us your job title.
I am the
Please.
Wildfire Prevention, Mitigation, and Education Specialist for the Huron-Manistee National Forest.
Whoa, now that's quite a job. So it's your job to keep the forest safe, is that right?
It's one of my jobs to keep the forest safe, but my primary job is to educate people on how to keep the forest safe through leave no trace principles and fire prevention and safety.
Oh my goodness. So let's get to the red, white, and blue on this. I mean, no fireworks on public land. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
The one thing that we want to do with fire prevention or wildfire prevention is we want to prevent any spark. Sparks can be caused not only from fireworks that are being discharged, especially aerial or sparklers, but also dragging chains, maybe wheels on your trailers that are low and are starting to deflate and then creating sparks. And then you
Really?
need to
Even
think
the
that
simplest thing can
the
start it.
simplest thing could start it. Not just a cigarette. Now, cigarettes are designed now that you need to puff on them in order to keep them lit. So cigarette industry has actually helped to prevent wildfires through creating their cigarettes that they have to be dragged on all the time. However, we still have other things. You know, there's a lot of people that love to go to Nordhaus Dunes out on Lake Michigan, and parking is very limited there. So a lot of people like to park on the side of the road. But what happens to the underside of your car as you're driving an hour out to the coast? It heats up, right? And then if we park on top of dry grass, now we risk a fire.
Oh my goodness. I didn't know any of this stuff.
This must have been nervous times for you because we've had extended periods this year since spring without any rain.
I would certainly say that that is a very accurate statement, Rick.
Yeah.
Rich, I think that the one thing we need to remember is we live in a very arid environment. It's very open. We get a lot of wind that comes off of Lake Michigan. 1 minute, the humidity could be up to 98%, and in the afternoon, it could be down to 20. And even though we think we got rain, if we were go on to the site called Great Lakes Fires and Fuels and pull up one of the weather stations, and we also check the fire danger on that site, you're going to see that one location may not receive as much rain as another location. So because our state is so big and the amount of weather shifts, some of it tracks south, some of it tracks north, and there's a lot of times where the interior of the mitten doesn't get that rainfall. Look at all the flooding that's down in Detroit right now. That's a lot of the water accumulated from here flowing downstream and then finding level ground and easy way out and just flooding the area. And there are areas up here that are already back in moderate fire danger. And as we look closer to the weekend, one thing that you should always do before you go camping is know before you go. Check the weather. Check the fire danger where you're going. Call the ranger district. Call the district office. Go online to Great Lakes Fires and Fuels. Look at the fire danger. And then also, you might want to check out the Michigan Interagency Dispatch Center that also puts the fire danger for the different national forests in Michigan. The National Weather Service also has a product called the Fire Weather Product. If you were to go to the Gaylord Weather Service or the Grand Rapids Weather Service and type in Michigan National Forest fire weather, you can actually pull up the planning forecast to see what the fire weather is going to be for the next few days.
Well, you are a bundle of resources. I mean, some of these things I've never even heard of. Have you, Rich?
Kind of.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. But, you know, I've been with DA. DA spent some time with the public safety group at the CTC because there is, you know, wildland firefighting, and there is that aspect of that with that class.
With the students.
So back in early June, I spent a lot of time going back and forth between here and Alpena. And on those days, Cadillac got 0 rain. But there was a stretch of 127 or 75 between about Houghton Lake and Grayling that got drenched. So how difficult does that make it for you when some areas are getting tons of rain and other parts of the state aren't getting any in a forecast situation?
The Huron-Manistee has well over 1 million acres.
Oh my
But our
goodness
forest
gracious.
fire protection is a little under because we work as a partner with the Department of Natural Resources to look at how to approach and segment all those different fire areas so that we can respond. So we have a mutual aid agreement that allows us to help each other.
Awesome.
And one of the things that we do look at is it may be raining over here on the Manistee, but it's not getting anything over in the Huron. So there's some things that we look at when we do talk about how to evaluate what the fire danger is looking at. We look at the current weather, the predicted weather, what our rainfall has been within the last 72 to 48 hours, and then we also look at where are we in our green up stage. If you remember earlier in the spring, when we start getting green up, it usually starts downstate and moves north. Well, on our forest, we have property that is very well south, and that's over in the Manistee National Forest, down in Newaygo County and Mason County, and that starts to green up first.
I see.
And most of the forest over in the Manistee side are hardwoods.
Okay.
And then we start to green up, and we get to green probably around mid-May, but we still have fire danger over in the Huron side. The Huron side is primarily pine, primarily jack pine.
Okay.
And jack pine is very flammable. During the spring, pine trees tend to pull all the moisture out of their needles and put it into the candles to reproduce. And as the moisture levels are dropping, the oils in the needles become more concentrated and more flammable. So we're looking at that situation of flammability based on how dry it is on the process of those pines trying to reproduce. Any plant is going to force itself to reproduce. And that's what the pines were doing. They're trying to pull it in. And then once they candle and they pollinate, then it starts to even itself back out again. Now we live in a very unpredictable climate when it comes to weather. They say that if you don't like the weather in Michigan, give it 10 minutes and it'll change, which is very true, especially in the wintertime with snow. But the one thing we can say is because of the amount of sandy soils that we have, any rainfall that we do get leaches out pretty quickly. Okay. So we're looking in dry conditions.
And that is interesting because, you practically go from snow melt to fire season
in
within a day or two.
Yep.
Well, and that's funny because on 55, when I'm on my way to my office, I always look at the sign by Cherry Grove Township there that's the fire danger sign. And I always think, whoa. Now, yesterday it was very low, and today it's very high. How did that happen in one day? And it's what you're telling me.
Yes. You tend to have warmer, drier days. We had one summer that when I lived here in Michigan that it was overcast every day, but it was hot.
Oh.
And we found that we were getting into a fire season in July, a summer fire season, where we had big fires. And we were getting big fires over on the Huron side of the forest where they weren't getting any rain because of the weather patterns. So those are situations where you can have a summer where it's overcast most of the time because Cadillac only gets 90 days of sunshine a year. And you end up having this weather system where there's no rain. It's overcast and it's warm and it just cures all the fuels. Now, when we talk about how volatile the landscape is for fire, we first look at grasses. Grasses are considered a 1-hour fuel, grass and brush, woody brush, and they dry out fast. If you ever notice, we could get a rainfall and everything's green or there's dew on it, and within an hour of the sun coming up or the wind kicking up, it's dry. And then over a period of time of having the sun beat on that and no rain, what did your lawns look like this year? They looked pretty bad until we got this rain.
It's so true.
And then all of a sudden everything started growing because those plants are like, gotta go to seed. And now you have all these grasses that have grown and they're going to start drying out again.
Oh boy.
And grass, when it burns, is considered a flashy fuel. So if you parked your car in there, that grass is going to burn pretty quickly and your car is going to get engulfed if you're parked on high grass that's dry. So when we look at those flashy fuels and we look at that drying out, that starts to push it up. There are 5 levels that we recognize for fire danger. Okay. And those adjectives are low, moderate, high, very high, and extreme. And when we talk about those adjectives, we're not talking about necessarily the fire danger, but how the fire behaves or reacts. So I want people to understand that when we say it's low fire danger, low does not mean no, low means slow. That means if we do have a spark in the wildland or on grass in some type of urban setting or even in farmland, it's going to be slow to move. And it's going to be slow to start. And the firefighters will have better success at actually catching that fire. When we start to get to high to very high, that fire all of a sudden starts to behave very erratically. It starts to move very fast and actually can spot up to 2 miles away. An ember from a wildfire can travel through a convective cloud and travel ahead of the main fire and land somewhere and start another fire.
What?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Many of the houses that have been lost in California wildfires have been because of embers traveling from other houses and landing on the roofs or other flammable materials around the house and then combusting through conduction.
So what you're saying is there's a lot greater danger on a day when there's higher wind than opposed to less wind.
Yes. Just because we got 1,700 inches of rain and we're in a sandy soil and it's drained and we're starting to get back up. Prudence. You need to use some common sense. When you strike that match, you are taking sole obligation of the results of that strike. And when you light that fire, you are now taking on the responsibility of making sure that that fire is contained, it doesn't get any bigger than it's supposed to, and that you're using it and extinguishing it properly. And there are a lot of people that don't extinguish their campfires.
What?
We have 4 minutes left, DA.
Okay, not a problem.
So we got 2 things I want to cover.
Okay.
This weekend, 4th of July weekend, and the proper way to put out a fire.
Absolutely. Okay. So remember, you're going on to public lands. One of the reasons why people go to public lands is because they want to be out where it's quiet. No cars, no cell service, no rowdy neighbors. And what do they get? They get rowdy campers and they're shooting off fireworks, which are wrong. And you are now risking a catastrophic event by introducing that spark into the wildland where you might not have cell coverage to call for for fire department or police or an ambulance. And then you might have the evacuation of a campground. And that's a lot of emergency resources needed to go to one place where most of these campsites are set up with 2 lanes of traffic, 1 road in and 1 road out, and that's it. And it's also sometimes hard to evacuate 100, 200, 300 people in a very short period of time.
Oh my goodness.
Be smart. Let the fireworks to the professionals. Go enjoy a show in Cadillac, Lake City, Manistee, Traverse City, wherever you want to go. In fact, you could work a circuit in 1 week of just all the different shows that are going on. But don't let your campfire become a wildfire and you have another show of your own. You need to make sure that you at least allow your fire to burn down to white ash. And if you're not going to let it burn down to white ash, then you need to make sure you're not putting any more wood on it, that you're drowning it, stirring it, using the back of your hand and lowering it, and feeling for heat. If your coals are too hot to touch, your campfire is too hot to leave. Cool your coals, drown, stir, and feel. And I can guarantee you that you're going to have a very pleasant experience because no person ever said, hey, let's make a campfire and have s'mores and start a wildfire, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So this 4th of July weekend looks to be dry. It looks to be warm and no rain. I don't know what the status of the wind is going to be, but beautiful weather means you need to be on guard.
True. One thing I can't stress enough is one thing that you need to do, which is a principle of the leave no trace, is know before you go. Check your fire weather, check your fire danger, call ahead. Make sure you have an idea of what you're getting into and then prepare for it.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
DA, thank you so much. I feel very educated right now.
Listen, I've worked with DA before, Katie, and I told you we wouldn't have to say much in this 15 minutes. We just let her go.
Yeah.
Let her go. She knows what
it's-
she's talking about.
Well, and the other thing is to share that knowledge so that other people can share that too. Because, the people who really need to learn this are not the older people who need to reiterate it, but all these young people that are coming up and learning how to appreciate, because those are the children who are going to be the stewards of tomorrow. They're going to be our foresters.
Yes.
They're going to be people who are politicians helping to make land management rulings and legislation. They're going to be taxpayers who actually contribute to that. So the thing that we need to do is we need to learn our children the appropriate way to behave with leave no trace and proper campfire care and wildfire care.
Wow. Thank you to the U.S. Forest Service for the work you do.
Thank you very much.
DA Brabazon, our guest. And before that, we want to thank Derek Anderson for coming in. And we wish everyone a safe and happy 4th of July weekend.
Happy 4th of
Happy
July.
4th of July. And I want to thank all the veterans who have
Yes.
served to allow me to have
Amen.
the privilege to be here today.
Amen.
Amen to that. Join us next week for another edition of Cadillac Unscripted, sponsored by Independent Bank. Same time, same station, 107.9 CDY.